Hello.
Hello, hello. Testing. Good morning.
Good morning. I started panicking.
No, panic how? Panic, no panic. No panic here. Everything is under control.
Morning. Can you hear me clearly? How are you, Charles? Thank
We
you
can
guys
hear
for.
you thoroughly and clearly.
I hope participants on the other side can't hear me.
We are in our own webinar.
Okay.
They can hear. They can hear for now.
They can actually
You can hear.
Who are the other 11 people? Is it backup?
No. You can't see the attendees. There's a click on attendees. We have Hapat Katongole, we have Hilary.
Oh, I see Peter. Hi, Peter. How are you? Thank you, Peter, for helping my crew.
You're welcome, Doctor.
I didn't get an opportunity to join you yesterday to introduce you properly.
No worries, no worries.
But I know you got your way around.
Yeah, so something. Dora, check your message. We have a slight challenge, but we'll see how to manage.
Okay.
Okay. So will the other guests also join as panelists when their turn comes to speak, or their mics will be activated when their turn comes from the other side? Hello. Hello.
Yes, most the participants, the presenters are supposed to be part of the panelist. That is Rowena, who is presenting. The people invited who are going to provide remarks, whenever
they will be part of the panelists.
No, I don't. They won't be part of the panelists.
Okay.
Because we didn't have their email addresses to properly invite them. But since they're only giving
their mics will be activated when their turn comes to speak.
Yes, as a moderator, I'll just kindly request them to unmute and provide their remarks as we progress through the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is Dr. Maiga on?
Dr. Maiga has not yet logged in. Good morning, everyone, all participants. The time is exactly 10:05. I would like to welcome you all to the Equality Assessment Tool for e-Services under the SECA program. Thank you for honoring the invite. Kindly give us an extra 10 minutes as we receive other participants. So we shall start at exactly 10:15. So 10 more minutes for us to start. If there's anybody you know who you'd like to attend, please share the Zoom details, meeting code and passcode. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Charles, this is Aminah.
Yes, Aminah.
Am I only constrained to the panelist side, or am I being projected to the other side as well?
No, yeah, amongst the panelists.
No, right now as I speak.
No. When you speak, everybody hears. Yeah.
Okay. That's noted.
Morning, all participants. Hope you all can hear me. Once again, welcome to this dissemination seminar, a quality assessment tool for e-services. We are scheduled to begin within the next 2 to 3 minutes. We are still waiting for a few more participants to join us, so kindly bear with us. My name is Charles Halondafuna, and I will be your moderator for the next 2 hours. So yes, once again, good morning, and you're all most welcome. I hope you can all hear me. Please confirm. If not,
I can hear you.
thank you very much. Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Charles Halondafuna, moderator for today's dissemination session. You're all most welcome. Thank you for honoring the invites that I sent out on behalf of the project team. And yes, good morning. So before I start, I'm going to kindly share the program with you so that you can know what's going to happen within the next 2 hours. So let me just share the program. So yes, I've shared the program. Please confirm that you can all see it. Okay, this is a dissemination seminar on a system that assesses the quality of e-services in Uganda, and it's under the Makerere University with support from Carnegie Corporation of New York, aimed at supporting early career academics at Makerere University, SECA project. Date and time of the dissemination is from 10 to 12. It's an online event, although some of the team members are physically here at the College of Computing. College of Computing conference room. So as you can see on my screen, the program, we're going to have registration and introductions. Basically, I introduced myself. I'm going to go ahead and introduce each and every one of the people who are going to present and speak or address us. We shall have an introduction to the SECA project from Dr. Aminah Zawedde, who is the PI. At 10:30 to 11, about 30 minutes, we shall have a demonstration or presentation of the tool from Shafiq Lutaaya, who is the technical lead and also a master's student here at the School of Computing. We shall then have relevance of the tool to industry, policy making and regulation. And we have invited Ms. Rowena Trinawe from NITA-U to kindly share with us the relevance of this tool. We shall then have a Q&A session for about 20 minutes. But please also note that during the presentations or the remarks, we are also going to be engaging you through the chat session. So if you have any pending questions, you can raise your hand, but ideally submit them through the chat session and the team will address them as we progress through the program for the day. At 11:40, we shall have remarks from the SECA project sponsors, that is Professor Buyinza from DRGT, Makerere University, and then remarks from the Dean, Acting Dean, that is Dr. Evelyn Kahigi. We shall then have remarks from the college principal, since they're the ones who are hosting the project, and then closing remarks from the DVC A&A, Professor Umar Kakuba. So that should take us from 10 to 12:15, 2 hours. So without wasting any time, I'm going to kindly go to the welcoming remarks, and that is Professor Gilbert Maiga. But briefly, Professor Gilbert Maiga is the Dean School of Computing and Informatics Technology, Makerere University. He holds a PhD in Information Systems. He has done research on adoption of telemedicine for healthcare and remote settings. He's a PI on a CEDA-supported project called TSEED. He has authored over 25 peer-reviewed journal papers and book chapters. And he has also done a lot of mentoring. I can keep on going and on about Professor, but that will suffice for now. So I'm going to kindly request Prof to give us his welcoming remarks. Professor, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Charles, for those kind introductory remarks. I want to say a good morning to all of you, wherever you are. And I want to wish you continued good health under the current pandemic. I've been introduced. I'm Gilbert Maiga, and on this project, I continue to play the role of a mentor. That's why I'm here. So I want to warmly welcome each and every one of you that has found the time to be on this call and with us this morning. To listen in and listen to us, some of the outcomes of the project. As I welcome each and every one of you, I want to recognize in no particular order of importance the presence on this call of some few people in, like the principal of the College of Computing and Information Sciences, Professor Tonoyana. You are welcome, and thank you for attending to this call. You can see the acting dean, Dr. Evelyn Kahigi. I saw you are welcome. I've seen the engineer, Professor Venomugisha, you are welcome. Chitamukuru, you are welcome. I also want to welcome Dr. Aminah Zawedde, not just as the PI, but the PS. You can choose which one you want, whether you want the P with the I or P with the S. So, Dr. Zawedde, you are welcome. And congratulations for moving from PI to PS of the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. So you are all welcome. And at this event, in this seminar, we are going to share some of the findings of an ongoing project in which we target creating improved quality of e-services in this country, Uganda, through coming up with the parameters that can be used for assessments. The project is sponsored through Makela and Directorate of Research and Graduate Training by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. I hope I've said that correctly. So we want to thank Carnegie for sponsoring this project, and we want to thank the Directorate of Research and Graduate Training and Makela University for giving our team the opportunity to do the work that we've been involved in. I want to also thank the College of Computing and Information Sciences and the School of Computing and IT for creating an enabling environment that has made it possible for us to do the work that we've been able to do. I want to recognize and thank Dr. Aminah Zawedde, who wrote the proposal and won the grant. Congratulations, Dr. Zawedde, and thank you for the job well done so far. It has been mentioned that Shafiq Lutaaya has been the technical lead for the project. Thank you, Shafiq, for the work that you've done so far. I'm proud to say that I've been associated with this project as the mentor for the PI and the technical lead, Shafiq. So without taking more time than I have been allotted, I want to very warmly again welcome you to this event and hope that you'll enjoy. You'll stay on long enough and you'll enjoy the receiving the results that we are going to be sharing. You are welcome, and I wish you all the best. Back to you, Charles Fona.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for those welcoming remarks. Much appreciated. Would like to go ahead with the next item on the agenda, and that is the reason why we're here, introduction to the SECA project. And I'm going to hand over ownership to the PI, Dr. Aminah Zawedde, who was introduced by Professor Maiga as having upgraded from PI to PS. Let me also add in something small. She's a Ugandan computer scientist, academic and public administrator, who is currently serving as a PS for Uganda Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, I think since 15th July 2021. She's a lecturer and researcher at the School of Computing and Informatics at Makere University. In case you're wondering where I'm getting this information from, she's actually now officially on Wikipedia. There's a background and education. She was born in Buganda region of Uganda in the 1970s, etc. But anyway, Doctor, you're most welcome. I'm going to hand over to you to tell us why we're here and introduce the SECA project. You're most welcome, Doctor.
Good morning, everyone, and you're most welcome to this online and partially physical event for those who are participating on ground. I first of all thank you all for having responded to our invite, for those who have been able to attend, and I welcome you all and hope you have a happy stay throughout the session. I take this opportunity to thank Carnegie Mellon for the support they have given this project. As our mentor has told us, this project was sponsored by Carnegie Mellon to support early career researchers, to empower them or to build their capacity in research and supervision of students. So the School of Graduate Studies has been a great support team behind the success of this project. This project is a postdoctorate project. And on this project, like the dean said, he is the mentor. The project required that you have a mentor, you have a master's student to guide through up to the completion of the research. And we had to have publications, 2 publications out of this. So the invitation for us today is to go through what this research is about. I just need to confirm whether I am very audible to everyone.
Doctor, please go ahead. You are very audible. We can hear you clearly.
The basis for this research is hinged on the fact that the government of Uganda has taken some strides to ensure that we embrace e-government services. And a lot has been done towards ensuring that many services are taken online. Today, some of you, or those who have attempted to apply for the current passport, about 90% or 80% of the process is done online, including payment. You just have to present yourself to the immigrations offices for you to get your biometrics taken and photo taken, but the application, the payment is all done online. Visa application for those who are coming, traveling to the country from abroad, do it online, up through to the payment and acquisition of the visa. However, we have a challenge that we continue to see sometimes the quality of service not meeting our expectations for those who use the services. So the country, Uganda, has a national development plan of its, the third in its series, that is aimed at strengthening the digital transformation path or journey of this country. So in order to realize the digital transformation journey of the country, we have to ensure that, yes, as we go or as we go electric, as we go online, the services that are offered are also of good quality. So this project aimed at coming up with parameters that can be used to measure the quality of these services. Why did we do that? This is motivated and hinged based on the facts, like I earlier mentioned, that yes, we need our citizens, including myself and you, to get a good quality service. When you go online, take as short time as possible, but also have a seamless transition throughout the use of that system or service. So the assessment of the quality of e-services is very important, and it helps inform the improvement of these processes, because we know that when we have a system in place, we have to have continuous improvement on the system. But this can be mainly also be informed by the assessment we get of the services from the users of this service. The digital assessment tools that have been developed have the potential to enable and promote the governance, and promote e-governance, and promote strategic decision-making, and so many other things, if the service is offering good quality, or if we get good feedback about the user on how to improve it. So the problem statement for this research is mainly threefold. First, that we have a high failure rate of e-services going on currently. Failure not in terms of completion, but in terms of performance. So the e-services that we have are reported to continue to fail to meet the citizens' expectations in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. The second issue is that we continue to see low uptake of e-services. Of course, by the time I drafted this proposal, I did not even envision that I would be holding the position I have now But I now sit in a position where this is now a reality. Before, when I wrote, yes, it was a reality, but from a constrained point of view, from a limited point of view, but now it comes as a reality, and the findings of this research will go a long way in addressing some of the challenges that we are facing. There's a lot of time wasted in the usage of systems or going through processes, and even the service delivery continues to be poor. But if we have a tool, an online tool that users can use to assess the quality of the service, and this can ably inform the developers of the system or people who continue to oversee the use of this system, get or yield better results, and at the end of the day, we'll have better services delivered. Next slide, please. So the research aimed at developing a model for quality assessment of e-services that are used in resource-constrained environments. Uganda being a country that is constrained of resources and funding, we proposed a model that we eventually supported with a tool to help us provide services of assessing the quality of e-services that are used. The first objective was to determine the factors that are used in order to establish requirements for a model of quality assessment of e-services in resource-constrained environments. We then designed a theoretical model that can be used to assess the quality of the services, and then validated this theoretical model with or using a prototype that was developed by the technical lead, Shafiq Lutaaya, as he will present later on. Next slide. So in this dissemination today, we are going to, we have taken a roadmap that has taken us 8 steps. First, we had the conceptualization of the projects in the inception phases, where we determined, what the feasibility of the study we are going to do and the roadmap that we are going to take. We did field studies by collecting data from, because it came at a time when the data collection happened at a time when we were being faced with the COVID challenges. So most of the collection was done online using data collection tools. And this is a lesson that we have taken for most of the research that is especially done in the field. If we are to collect data, if we can think about several ways of collecting data remotely, then we can be able to reach more people than previously we used to when we did most of the data collection physically. And indeed, we collected data from several people, bigger than the survey that the sample size we had anticipated. The data was analyzed. We developed a model and a tool that was later tested. This tool and the model subsequently were validated by experts in industry, some of them who we have on this call. And then today we are reporting and disseminating results to both the stakeholders that were involved and the wider community at large. This research has yielded results so far. We have had the master's student on this project complete his dissertation. We have signed off the dissertation, I together and the mentor, and are submitting it for examination by the end of this week. We have also written 2 research journal papers, 2 research papers that are also undergoing examination or undergoing peer review. So we are keeping our fingers crossed to ensure that we have successful dissemination of our results. I will have my student take us through the technical lead. We call him a technical lead technically because he has been behind the development and coding of the system. he will take us through the process and the results that we yielded. But before I hand over the mic to Shafiq, I thank you all. I thank the management and staff of the College of Computing for the support that you have rendered to me during the implementation of this project. And also, for the support you gave me all the years that I have been in the College of Computing. That is my home, and I will always continue to collaborate with you in the work that we do, because where I am seated as a permanent secretary, there is no way you can succeed in government without working closely with academia. I also thank the team at the School of Graduate Studies. Thank you, Mr. and all the staff in the School of Graduate Studies, headed by Professor Buyinza, who have given me an opportunity to facilitate the success of this research. Above all, I thank the top management of the university, the vice chancellors, Professor Omar Kakumba, Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs. Thank you for the support, because he's the head of administration of the Carnegie Mellon project that I have been pursuing. Thank you for the support, and you're welcome to this session. I hand over the mic to Shafiq to take us through the next steps. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Principal Investigator, Dr. Zawedde. Thank you, Professor Maiga, the mentor. Thank you, Charles. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, professors and doctors present, the project sponsors, the Carnegie Corporation of New York and the Directorate of Research and Graduate Training, the college principal, the acting dean, the business transformation manager at the National IT Authority, members of the various government ministries and departments and agencies and academia and industry, distinguished guests. I have the high privilege and the distinct honor presenting to you the methodology and the incredible results that we've done on a model of assessing the quality of e-services in Uganda over the past 11 months. Well, first of all, in 2012, 9 years ago, President Obama, in his 4th annual State of the Union address to Congress, highlighting research and innovation, the president emphasized and underscored that innovation requires impact research, and that's exactly what we've done. Now, following the project investigators' presentation, I am thrilled to report on the methodology, the results, the developed conceptual model, and its validation, and the tool that was implemented from this research. That's what that was conducted over the past 1 year. Now, the methodology was premised on Alan Hebner's design science research paradigm, who's a professor of information systems from the University of South Florida, which is aimed at solving critical prevailing business and industry challenges with novelty, so as to produce research artifacts as solutions to problems that exist in the problem environment. So now, for the first objective on establishing factors for assessing the quality of e-services, we performed systematic literature reviews that guided the development of the conceptual model. That is from prior validated instruments, for example, the ESQL instrument, which is called the Electronic Service Quality Assessment Model by Professor Parasuraman from the University of Miami, who also co-authored it with Professor Zaitmal and Professor Malhotra from the University of North Carolina, which is aimed at citizen satisfaction from the e-services. So the constructs of this model were integrated with the model on e-government service quality assessment by Papadimenshlaki from the National Technical University of Athens, which focuses on assessment of e-government service quality. Now, for the context of Uganda, it was established that 3 new constructs were required to be added to the new model in addition to the extended constructs, as the literature on the problem environment suggested. Also, to ground this work even further, key policy and regulation in the e-services arena were rigorously and systematically reviewed, which included, of course, as the project PA said, the National Development Plan and the National Planning, it was launched by the National Planning Authority last year, the NDP3, and also the Digital Uganda Vision and the National E-Government Framework, and the National IT Survey Report that was published by the National IT Authority in 2018, recently. Working in collaboration with the CPESA, which is the Collaboration and International IT Policy for Eastern and Southern Africa. So the research instrument was rolled out nationally in all regions of the country and most of the areas in Uganda using a tool called Lime Survey. It is popular in Canada and the United States and Estonia for industry and academic research. This was done with an aim of collecting data on what factors the Ugandan citizenry perceive as attributes that constitute high quality services that are effective and efficient and yield customer satisfaction. Now in this, all the research ethics were the core of the processes at all levels. Now, to achieve the research project second objective, having done the data analysis and made sense of the data from the field, so reliability and validity tests were done, factor analysis was performed, as well as regression analysis, and the independent variables were found to be actually responsible for explaining the dependent variable e-service quality in Uganda. And finally, to achieve the third objective on validating the developed conceptual model, a software artifact was developed to implement and also validate the model, which were both further validated by industry experts from key stakeholders, from more than 20 MD experts like the National IT Authority and the National Planning Authority, the National Water, among others. So with reference to prior validated instruments on the assessment of the quality of e-services in the context of developed economies, that is from the University of South Florida, the University of Miami, the University of North Carolina, and the National Technical University of Athens, we established factors that are fit for a model for quality assessment of e-services in the context of a resource-constrained economy like Uganda, where we rigorously use literature in the context of Uganda to add new constructs of feedback, quality assurance, and user experience to the final model that can work for our country. Now, which factors were aligned to the problems cited in the literature that was revealed. For the first time in Uganda, we tested and validated factors that contribute to assessing electronic service quality after a nationwide survey, which we carried out in April and May, and later validated by experts, as I said, in key ministries, departments, and agencies, and academia. And therefore, we used these to construct a robust conceptual model that is aimed at yielding improved citizens' satisfaction from the e-services that the government offers, which also can be used by the private sector. So the conceptual model is premised on 8 key constructs that determine electronic service quality, and these are the efficiency and ease of use of the e-services, the level of reliability of the e-services, the level at which the e-services fulfill expectations of the citizenry, then the trust, that is the consideration for privacy and security concerns, and of course also the level of citizen support that users get from these e-services. And then also provisions for end user feedback, submission tools, also to inform and guide the improvement of quality of service continuously, and of course quality insurance, mechanisms to avoid defects and inefficiencies, and of course the quality of user experiences derived from using these e-services. With that background, to implement and validate the theoretical model and also acting as the template, the model was instantiated into the software artifact that we developed. So in this case, the software implements and also validates the model. So in this case, we also, this was in addition to the various MD experts that we used in the validation process. So in summary, the techniques used to validate this, as Professor Alan Hebner underscored in the design science research paradigm, included the software artifact that was developed and also the industry experts validation, who also responded to our validation questionnaire and also confirmed that this is actually the model that our country needs to improve citizen satisfaction from e-government services. Some of the relevant key experts were from the Local Government Finance Commission, the National Planning Authority, the National Water, the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, the National Identification Registration Authority, and the Ministry of Local Government, of course, Makerere University, the National IT Authority, and of course, the Ministry of Education and Sports, and Ministry of Lands, and among others. So these experts included heads of IT, database and systems administrators, applications developers, systems analysts. We also had some board members respond to this. Now, for the system, the key functionalities include one, creating of and management of MDA profiles. So we can create MDA profiles within the system. Then we can add and manage e-services to the dashboard, which e-services belong to a given MDA. So the system has the ability to create e-service quality assessment checklist items. Now here, these are the sub-variables. So you also can manage them there. Now the system also allows for addition and management of the categories. Now these categories, we refer to them as variables in our conceptual model, but here we refer to them as categories, but then in the model, they are variables, the 8 constructs I presented above. And then of course, performing electronic service quality assessment, which is the end goal, and generating PDF reports on quality assessment of a given e-service, and most importantly, producing visualization reports or graphical reports on quality assessment and producing quality scores per construct, also to inform decision-making for the owner of the MDA, which is the owner of the e-service. Now, the system also has the ability to email reports to the stakeholder to inform and also guide on the quality metrics of their e-service, to guide on the next steps. So right about now, I have the singular honor to take you through the steps on accessing the system. So we used, as I said, the model above as a template, since its constructs were tested and validated for the first time in the context of Uganda, to develop a tool that can be used to assess the quality of e-government services. So to access the tool, all you have to do is go to that URL you see up there. We're going to share it in the chat. So it's qate.qualityassessmentofe-services.com, and it will bring for you a homepage that looks like this, the login page. So the test credentials for, we are in the beta phase, we call it beta. Beta is when you release a product to end users, and then you put it out there for testing purposes before you go to the alpha phase. And then of course you release it. So right now we are able to allow people to test the system and also give us feedback on what improvements can be made. We've already got key feedback from the MDAs that participated in the validation exercise. So the email that you can use for testing is the email you see there, qualitytester@test.com, and the password is that password you see there, qualitypath. So you can actually use this, and you can give us some feedback when you utilize this. So when you log in, the system has a navigation pane on the left. So we have the home where all e-services come as they're added to the system by the administrator. So when you add the e-service for a given MDA, so of course you have to add the MDA first. So the e-services come here. We capture certain information on every e-service, like the name, the title, the description, and stuff, and other stuff, and other key information that is necessary. Then the e-services tab is where we add them from, and then the QA list tab is the tab that you use to add the quality assessment variables, the 8 constructs of variable, and also the checklist, which we call here, which are the sub variables of the model. Yeah. So when you click on the model, that model tab, it brings the conceptual model theoretically. So just so if somebody is using this and has no idea what this is about, they're able to conceptualize that from that conceptual model there. So the conceptual model has both a detailed conceptual model and a summary version of the conceptual model. Yeah, everybody who participated in the validation has seen this. Now the settings tab is where you actually add parameters, where you add MDAs to the system, and also add administrators. Then we have a reports dashboard tab for reports, visualization reports. So in summary, the system produces a PDF report and informs. There's also provision for adding remarks or comments when the assessment is being done. So the system produces an overall quality score for that given e-service. And when you see, for example, here we have efficiency being that percentage, about 98%. So this is an example, because we're in the beta phase, we are testing. So this is an example of the results from a report. So when you see reliability is about 80%, fulfillment is about 73%, and trust is about something like 65%. So this informs, in addition to the PDF report, this informs the owner of the MDA on what metrics they need to improve to improve the overall satisfaction from the e-service. So the goal is 100% really, or 99%. So all these scores add up and give the overall quality score for e-service quality. So because these are the determinants of the e-service quality, as I say. I am happy to report that as we have a dissertation and 2 research papers from this work, as was mentioned earlier. Now for the National IT Authority, as the regulator of the IT arena, this is something that should be operationalized by the National IT Authority in conjunction with the Ministry of ICT, which should provide the regulatory framework for implementing this across government MDAs, across government ministry departments and agencies to ensure that they achieve enhanced quality of their e-services. Now for the university, the university is the first beneficiary of this, of course, as you'll see ahead. E-services are failing in the sectors of education, agriculture, health. Now education is one of them. So the university can use this to continuously improve the quality score of their e-service until we achieve 100%. Yeah, so for the citizens, from the e-government services offered by the government, the citizens will be able to achieve enhanced satisfaction, improved service quality, and improved efficiency of government MDAs and government overall. For researchers, this work contributed to the work of Parasuraman and Papadimichlaki, Malhotra, and Zania from those universities that I mentioned prior. So for other researchers can also use, build on top of what you're doing. For policy and practice, we have somebody that will talk about this, and this is key for policy and regulation around e-governance, because it's been validated in countries like Estonia and the United States. So such work is really key for policy and regulation. And those countries have been able to achieve 99%. Estonia, for example, has achieved 99% e-governance. Yeah. Now there is an ongoing project that is being implemented by government on building the enterprise architecture framework and the interoperability framework. Of course, government wants to have e-services that are interoperable, that are integrated. So this model is a plugin. Those of you who have used WordPress know what plugins are. So it's a plugin that can be used to, it can be a pillar for assessing e-services continuously to achieve the overall goal of the e-government enterprise architecture and of course the e-government interoperability framework. Yeah, I would like with profound gratitude to thank the Carnegie Corporation of New York for sponsoring this work and being committed to it, and the Director for Research and Graduate Training for giving us the support, the continued support on this to ensure that it's completed successfully. I'd like to thank also the university for having giving us an environment to do work that is important for the country. I would like to thank the National Water and Sewage Corporation and the customers. This is where we collected data all across the country. It was very phenomenal. It was so quick and so fast and so phenomenal. I'd like to thank the MDA experts that validated in this, as I mentioned prior, people from the National Planning Authority, from the Local Government Finance Commission, from the Ministry of Health and so forth. I want to thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedules to ensure that you participate in this urgent issue that is important for the country. Yeah, I want to thank the support that I've received from everybody that has contributed to this. Yeah, so I want to thank you so much for your audience. Thank you all for sparing some time out of your busy schedules to listen in. I'd like to request you to log into the portal and check it out. Also give us some feedback in the question and answer session that is coming up. Of course, now following protocol, it is my great honor to hand over to Charles to take over from here and give us the next steps. Thank you very much. Yeah, somebody posted in the chat that this is the login. These are the login details, qate.qualityassessment.vsat.com, and that's the email you can use to test, and the password. Yeah, Charles, you can take over from here.
Hello? Yes, participant, sorry, I had a mic issue. Shafiq, thank you very much for your presentation on the tool. I picked out a few keywords. You talked about operationalization of the tool with the help and support from Ministry of ICT and NITA-U. You also talked about policy making, regulations, and etc. And I think the next person on the program is the key person who can maybe also address some of those issues. Ms. Rowena Turinawe, who's a manager and business transformation quality assessment of e-services at NITA-U. I know she is here present with us, so I'm going to kindly request her to unmute and Ms. Rowena, you're most welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me just share my screen. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Rowena Turinawe. I work as the Business Transformation Manager at NITA. It is always a pleasure for us to support my career and the academia at large. So I'd like to thank Dr. Zawedde and everybody present at the university for the opportunity. I realized from what Shafiq and Dr. Madam PS shared that you fairly know a bit about NITA, which is encouraging, but I'm going to just try and delve more into the relevance of this tool for industry and regulation. As Charles said, my position is Business Transformation Manager. So the heart of what I do every day is to look out for transformation, look at the processes, look at the tools, if the e-services are available, and if they're actually adding value. So for me, this project was particularly very exciting. I was glad to participate. And now I'll just delve into my presentation. So just to give a background on NITA, NITA is a fairly young organization. We are about 11 years old. And our core function is to provide high quality IT services, keyword on quality, guidance to users, both private sector and public sector. We are meant to reinforce standards. Our job is to coordinate and make sure that there's cooperation within the private sector and within government in planning, acquiring, implementing, delivering ICT services. Our job is to promote, so it's basically to make sure that people are aware of e-government services, are aware of the shared services, are able to use them, and also to monitor. Because ICT will only make sense to an extent that it's usable, to an extent that it's affordable, to an extent that it's adding value within the context of Uganda. So this is basically our mandate as NITA. And we have gone over the years into various efforts of making this happen. One is the establishment of infrastructure. I know most of us know about this. So the foundations that we've laid for e-government is one, infrastructure. So our job is to make sure that you have a data center to host your services, the national backbone is up, there's internet bandwidth that's available and accessible across the country, there's Wi-Fi for the areas where there's no fiber. We're generally looking at infrastructure because it is one of the core foundations of e-government services. Another thing that we do at NITA is we're looking at the enabling environment. Are the laws conducive? Are you able to sign, digitally? Are you able to transact? Is e-commerce, safeguarded? Are there policies to make sure that, ICT is secure for government? So we look at all these different laws. If I give an example now of our most recent law on data protection and privacy, here we're saying that, okay, we have reached a phase where e-government is now the thing. Everybody's putting their personal data online. As NITA, we must make sure that the laws and regulations are in place to support the safety of the users and the safety of government. We also do capacity building. That's where we try to upskill, because we all know that if people don't know how to use technology, then there will be no possible way for them to use it. So one of the things we do within government and even outside government in the communities is we look at training, digital upskilling, equipping government CIOs, IT officers, going out into the fields and training on e-learning, Colibri, how to use Wi-Fi, the basic things, because we realize that knowledge in digital skills is very important for the uptake of e-government services. We look at information security at a national and interrelational level. So we look at securing our cyberspace, we look at securing our government information, we look at monitoring incidents for the nation, both private sector, public sector, critical infrastructure. So from a national perspective, we're basically looking to see that your information and your systems are secure. And lastly, we do automation, which is the heart of what we are going to talk about today. What we do with automation as NITA is we do process re-engineering. We try to look at the logical flows. Dr. Aminah has talked about when you want to apply for a passport, how everything is online. All that was possible because we had to go in and re-engineer. We say, okay, if this used to take 37 steps, how do we make it logical so that it takes 2 or 4 and it's easy for people to reduce the queue? It's a work in progress, but NITA really looks at, as much as we look at just building an e-service, we also look at the logic behind, because our desire is the same as yours, to have a quality e-service for our citizens. So we focus on business analysis, we look at building the actual e-services, we build web portals, we help with research. So we have a gist of everything that is necessitated or necessary for the development of e-government services in Uganda. Now, if we look at the current, what is the objective? Why do we do all this? Why have we gone into infrastructure, cybersecurity? Why are we trying to put all these pieces together? The real objective is e-government. Like I said earlier, it's to make sure that any government process or function can be carried out in a digital form, over the internet, or even not on the internet. If you look at SMSs, USSD, even the basic feature phone should be able to access a public service online. And that is the objective of why we do this, which again, like I said, is why this project was particularly interesting for us. Now, over time, I've seen some achievements. From a government perspective, we have noted that more MDAs are now using shared services. So shared services are building blocks or pillars, like I mentioned before, which we've put in place to ease the life of government entities. So instead of everybody buying an email server or going to Gmail, or I don't know if people still use Yahoo, but getting personal mail, then they have a secure government email, which is offered by NITA, managed by NITA, to make their life easy. If you look at, say, hosting, we have a national data center, which is providing hosting services, so you don't have to go and worry about servers, space, maintenance, AC, the works. So we've put these building blocks in place to reduce the cost of ICT, but also to make it easy for government entities to adopt e-services. So instead of them focusing on building all these different things and spending months in procurement and worrying about, do we have a database administrator? Like, it's easy. So we've done this and we have seen a gradual uptake. Right now we have 187 unique MDAs using these services, which for us is a huge achievement from a government perspective. Now, when I look at the current landscape from an external facing view, like Shafiq had mentioned, we conducted a survey in 2018, a nationwide survey. We are set to do one early next year. But in that survey, it was very clear that e-government people actually adopting e-government. From an MDA perspective, 71% of the services are being offered electronically, 41.6 are SMS, 22 are mobile. Most of the government entities have websites, 98.7 have websites, 93.5 of them have email. The personnel are starting to appreciate information security, which wasn't the case a few years ago. So it's evident that even as government, we are starting to catch this e-government thing is becoming an apparent need for us. And for us, it gives us more urgency or a bigger reason to focus on what is the quality of e-government services. Fine, we are saying we are putting them online. We are saying we're adopting digital channels. We are appreciating information security. What is the quality and what is the uptake? Dr. Aminah touched on that a bit, on the fact that we're churning these things out. MDs are adopting. We have most services online. For example, the e-citizens portal has 109 e-services online. The uptake doesn't match the supply. So the demand and the supply have a gap, which is what I'm going to next. So if I look at one of the challenges, some of the general challenges we have in e-government services, one is poor service delivery. We do have generally, the bulk of public service is still majorly. Some MDAs have improved. You won't find as many queues like the driving permits. There's some people who have adopted it well, but on the larger side of things, you'll find that there will still be time delays. You will spend more hours than you need to at an MDA. There will be a high cost of the service, mostly because you have to move from place to place, then to the bank, then back to the bank, or you have to print something, or you just have to drive for the fuel because, somehow you spend. Then you look at too much paperwork. That also came up as a reason for why people are not taking up e-government services. We have information getting lost. This is majorly because they are still semi-manual, semi-automated, and then keeping track of requests. So generally, we still have a problem as a nation in terms of the quality of our service delivery. From a government perspective, we have issues with duplicated systems. We have 176 systems doing more or less the same thing, attracting costs in maintenance, collecting data, paying their vendors, upgrades, updates. It costs government too much. And because it costs us too much, we are therefore being slow in allocating funds to things that matter, such as e-government services, awareness, improving quality, because all the money is going into a server somewhere, which is doing the same thing another server is doing. So for us, from an e-government perspective, it is slowing us down quite a bit, but hopefully, and I'm hopeful that soon this will be something that the ministry will help us more ably address. Another challenge we have is limited awareness on e-government services. We generally have a low appreciation across the country. When we interact, when we go to have interviews and meet people, very many people are shocked when we tell them how many systems we have in government, how many e-services, what they can find online. It's like nobody's really aware of these things, or if they are, then we're talking to the wrong people, but there is a gap in terms of awareness. From the national survey, we discovered that only 4.1 people that were interviewed knew about MyUG. MyUG is free Wi-Fi. And I would imagine that everybody should know that there's free Wi-Fi in these areas, but only 4.1% of those knew that there was MyUG. When we look at interacting with MDAs, I'm sure many of us have many needs from government, from paying businesses, trading, NSSF, tax, name it. But out of the people that were interviewed from a nationwide perspective, only 17.4 that had interacted with an MDA. Remember all these different interactions from national water to all these public services. Only 17.4 are aware that that service they had gone for was available online, which again speaks to a huge gap in terms of awareness. And then lastly, one of our general challenges is lack of integration and data sharing. We still have MDAs that are not sharing data. They continue to hold the same data in different systems. So they are not integrated, they are not sharing data. We have, for example, Nero, I'll have my name, first name, last name, mother's name, my birthday, whether it's the right one or the manufactured one. Either way, they'll have that information. URL will have the same, NSSF will have the same, and they're not sharing the data, they're holding it disparately. The survey revealed that only 39.3 of these applications offer APIs, meaning only 39.3 are able to be integratable or share data, which is a huge limitation for us. So coming down to this model, when I was asked to give a talk on the relevance of this model to policy, and I first thought about the background, the heart of this model, how relevant, right? How relevant or how accurate is it for our challenges now? And throughout the process, the first issue was, okay, e-services are not paying what? taken up. They are failing, not in terms of not being delivered, but in terms of no one is taking them up. Is that true? From my perspective as a national IT authority, yes. The second was they're not being taken up in health, education, agriculture. Is that true from a national IT authority perspective? Yes. We carried out the survey. 47.8 were health, 14.1 education, 10.2% agriculture. We also carried out different, now this is outside NITA. With UNICEF, we carried out a U-Report survey. We talked to the Muntu Wawasi. So we went out, it's an USSD-based tool. We went out to the rural areas. They said the same thing, health, 42%, children's 29, education, 15. We had some other services on agriculture. So by and large, from NITA's perspective, this assessment and this model was spot on in terms of what is the challenge, where is the challenge. So from that perspective, we agree that this is the issue. So already that can be validated. From the conclusion now of this model, like Shafiq explained, they found some constructs around efficiency, reliability, fulfillment, trust, user support, feedback, user experience, and quality assurance. Now, we did other U-Report surveys back to the Muntu Wawasi to find out, okay, why aren't you using these e-services? How can we make the e-services better for you? And the biggest thing that came up was design with citizens. Majority of the people felt like you don't really click, you don't understand our user experience, you don't get feedback from us, you don't really understand what we want, we have no means of reaching government. If you designed these e-services with us, we would probably use them. That was the biggest thing that everybody kept saying. And that was really unfortunate thing for us as NITA, but it's something that came out very strongly. User involvement during the design of an e-service. So that also is in line with what this model had found out, among other things. Another thing that came out was trust. During the national survey, again, we were looking at particularly e-commerce, because part of our mandate is e-commerce. Are people using e-services to pay? Are we retaining the money in the economy? Are we curbing corruption? Can we track these things? It's a huge indicator for us. And when we carried out the survey, we found out that majority of the individuals did not make online payments because of trust, privacy concerns, and the security details. Purely trust. They were not sure about the quality. Can I trust this thing? Will my money be safe? Am I sure that I won't have an issue, then my money can't be reverted? Quality. They didn't trust the quality of the payment services, but mostly it was trust. They didn't have trust, and they had privacy concerns around using e-commerce for public services, which again speaks to the construct of this model, just to verify and validate that this thing was on the right track and was spot on. Now, how does this translate to us, to me as NITA? Because now I've seen that, first of all, the problem was the right problem. It was well identified. The constraints are spot on with what we are seeing and the facts that we have. How does this mean for us in terms of industry regulation and policy? So in terms of industry, first and foremost, because this model has been validated and it is indicated that it's robust, it's reliable, and can be used, my first relevance in industry is that we operationalize it, like Shafiq said. Because it's obviously something that we can validate, it's something that's concrete, and it's something that is useful for us now. What we do as NITA now is we assess systems. Before they come into the system, we go through a process where we look at a few checklists on what an e-government system should be before it's developed. Now, looking at the model you have now, we have gaps that we can take advantage of if we adopt this assessment model, because now we don't have them as government. So for me, my first relevance for this tool is that we adopt it within NITA and use it to benchmark or to critique all the e-services that are going into development. Right now, like Shafiq had said, we're developing an e-government interoperability framework and enterprise architecture. So the architecture is going to be a blueprint that every MDA has to follow when they're developing an e-service. So my view of how this can come into play is we can use this assessment model to assess those e-government services in line with the framework. So that's my application number one. My application number two, from a NITA industry perspective, in the industry of IT, public sector particularly, what we do as NITA is we certify IT service providers. So if you want to provide any service to government, you have to come to NITA. So we verify what are your skills, what are your qualifications, where are your premises, what's your turnover, are you really IT? It's more around the service providers, but we've been looking to start certifying products. So this for me would be a perfect start on how do we start moving from certifying the providers to looking at their products, because we are saying if we're giving you a certification and we are saying you're good enough for government, what about your product? This tool in the industry will take us a long way in marrying the two. So we know that the provider is legitimate and will not take advantage of government, but also we know that the product that they are providing is up to standard and will be one that is usable and acceptable with the end user. My third application for industry, again, are the local ICT providers. We have an outcry from the smaller SMEs and the local ICT providers around getting government business. So, we are always getting, complaints. You people want external vendors, you want to give Oracle money. And we've made efforts as NITA. We've made efforts from a regulatory perspective. We've got accreditation from PPDA to support them. We've tried to make efforts with the NISP under the Ministry of ICT. It's a collective thing, but we still have a gap where most government entities are a bit wary of trusting big projects with local providers. Now, us having this tool and having a standard of what a quality e-service is, for me is plugging that gap just a little. So I would imagine that one of the applicable things and the things that will help industry for us is that we will be able to bridge that gap between what the local ICT providers give and the quality expected from government. That's just from an industry perspective. From regulation, of course, we have various efforts we are undergoing as NITA. We are in the process of developing a digital services standard, which stipulates all manner of criteria for any service to qualify as an e-government service. We have a digital services standard, which is with UNBS now, and we hope to roll it out. Now, our alignment of this, because we had developed this, I think, 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago. So from a regulatory perspective, your tool would serve as good input or as a good operationalizational model for this standard, so that it helps us now sort of figure out how are we going to implement this in line with the output, which is quality. Is this going to be quality? Is this going to be used? Because for us, we were looking at it from quality, but mostly from a larger perspective in terms of sustainability, cost to government, grander things. But if we can marry that and also just the constraints mentioned in this model pertaining to the user, I do believe that the regulation would be easier to adopt because the value would be more easily seen. From a regulatory perspective, again, we've just gotten data protection and privacy regulations out, and we are operationalizing the office. So in terms of, because a key thing that came out in this research was trust. So part of us marrying this model that has looked at trust as a factor and the operationalization of this office, I do believe that it would enhance all the efforts of the office to address the internal issues pertaining to trust when it comes to using e-government services. Again, from regulation, we regulate standards for equipment, for ICT products, and we also rationalize and consolidate. What this means for us as NITA is, like I had mentioned, we have duplicate systems, and we also have a large portfolio, I think 363 systems now. And what we are trying to do from a regulatory perspective is harmonize which systems are doing what, which systems need to integrate, but also which systems need to be collapsed and consolidated. Because at the end of the day, it's a cost and we have to look at sustainability. So in terms of regulation, this would help give us a standard measure on these are the exact criteria for us to say this system needs to be consolidated or this system needs to be enhanced and integrated. So the application of this e-assessment tool, I think, would help us greatly in standardizing how we rationalize and consolidate the systems across government. Lastly, I think you can see all the value that this model has to offer us as a country. So lastly, I look at policy. Now, in line with the interoperability framework and enterprise architecture, we are moving to develop a data interoperability policy framework. This will be with the ministry supported by NITA. Again, this tool would be very fundamental in helping, in aligning the policy framework, because the policy framework will talk about policy, but also how we will go about measuring, implementing, and this tool, I think, will be a very, very good input because it will look at the softer issues, which are also aligned to the constraints, but also to the framework. Also, we are going through a process of reviewing the e-government policy. It's really old. It was done in 2011. And many industry relevant things, many aspects which have been identified previously in the previous surveys, but also in your studies have not been incorporated into that policy and into the national ICT policy, which was done in 2014. So for policy review, your research would form a very great input into driving us into the now narrative, into what's the scenario now, what is happening across the globe, what do we need to align and change, because ultimately e-government is only a success if it's being used and adding value. So for us, just a review of all these policy documents would help. Another thing that we foresee coming as NITA, where government is now focusing on the parish development model, where we're decentralizing services to the grassroots, to the parish level, to the local, the real grassroots. For us to do this again, it would be detrimental, especially because of our feedback from UNICEF. It would be a mistake for us not to get value for the people at the grassroots. So for the parish development model, I am aware that they're in the process of coming up with a policy framework. And again, it is my belief if we can trickle this down to the actual user of the e-service, this model will be very, very useful and fundamental in us getting that policy framework right. So for us, we are excited, we are expectant. We know that this tool and this research has a lot of potential to take our e-government adoption from the level we're at now to almost 100% adoption. And so we do thank you for the research and the opportunity. Thank you for giving me time. I hope I have shed some insight on how we can move together on this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rowena, for that presentation. You have really shared and highlighted a lot of things to the point that most participants really appreciated your presentation, and are kindly requesting for you to share your presentation, either through the chat session or you can share it with me and Dora, and we shall forward it to the participants. I've kindly requested those that are interested in the presentations or the slides that were presented today to please share your names and your email addresses, and we shall follow up and send you the presentations. Dr. Aminah Zawedde and the technical lead, Shafiq Lutaaya, and Rowena were our presenters today. And since we're going into the Q&A session, most questions are obviously going to be addressed to either one of them. So participants, prepare your questions, either submitted through the chat session or kindly just raise your hand, unmute your mic, and submit your question to the presenters, and they shall address your question. There was a question by one of the participants asking what steps have been taken or put in place to ensure that this system is actually used. And I think Rowena touched on that. So I think there's no questions there. But the statistics shared by Rowena were very, shocking in terms of use of the e-services. And I think maybe it comes to ICT literacy in Uganda, which is very poor. So it's hard for people to actually embrace and utilize these e-services. That's just my point of view. So yes, I'm going to open up the floor to the Q&A session. Participants, raise a hand and submit your question. Participants, do we have any questions for the presenters? We are in the Q&A session at the moment. Philip Opio, please unmute your mic and go ahead and submit your question, please.
Okay. Yes, good morning, everyone. And Shafiq, thank you for the presentation. There's really a lot we can do with this model. There are just a few things I wanted to mention. For example, how do we integrate things like the ISO standards on quality management systems, how do we put it, how do we integrate it in this model, especially when it comes to implementing it nationwide? And then also, how does it help address the issue of duplication of roles? Maybe this one would go to Rowena, because we have many systems doing similar things. Is there a way this model can catch that? And then we see how to address those issues. Finally, on the issue of identity integration, I don't know how, because Rowena mentioned it, but I don't know how we can solve that problem. It's very common to find that you have to integrate, I mean, you interact with each system as if they don't know you, or, I mean, it's a bit of a challenge, especially for services which would be even related. So I think maybe if there's a way we can get some solutions for that, it would be a good one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Opio, for that question. Before the team answers it, another question to Rowena. I hope she's still with us. To what extent does the NITA mandate go in coercing the integration of e-services from the other MDAs? Is there a clear policy on system integration for MDAs? So with those two questions, I hand over to the team to address them. Then we shall request for more questions. Dr. Aminah and your team.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Philip. That was a great insight. To begin with, I'll start with your last question. You said something on identity integration. I'll say something, then I'll hand over to probably Rowena to complement. Yeah, so in Estonia, for example, they have something called the X-Road, where you have one ID card that connects you to all the government systems, whether it's health, whether it's transport. So you don't have to log into a different platform using different credentials. So the X-Road is the backbone of the country, which also enables the country to implement 100% e-government services in Estonia. So coming back to our country here, when you see the National Identification Registration Authority is working on something similar. It's working on the the national ID. So government should move towards having something similar, because we need a unique identifier, so that you don't put your passport here and then they ask you for the national ID, and then they ask you for a driving permit. So the system should be integrated to avoid duplication in a way. So that I'd like to leave it at that, and also hand over to Rowena to complement on that, and Dr. Zawedde. Yeah, Rowena, would you like to take it up?
Yes, please. Actually, I should apologize for not mentioning that in detail. What we are doing at the moment is we are in the final process of phase 1 of integrating all government systems and a few private sector. So what we've done, what we did, Shafiq and the rest, we did benchmark studies in Singapore, Korea, Estonia, Moldova, Lithuania, all manner of countries. And what we have built now is, we're calling it UG Hub. It's sort of exactly like X-Road, but slightly more like the Moldova model. So we have an integrated bus where we are going to integrate all public services and critical government private services, like the banks, the telcos, infrastructure, and the like. So at the moment, we are finishing phase 1 in the next month. We've got a payment gateway on for digital payments. We've got an SMS gateway on for real-time notifications. We've got NIRA on for national aid ID lookup. We've got 12 banks using eKYC and 12 entities, URSB, URA, Ministry of Gender, Agriculture, Lands. I can include a slide in my presentation before I share, but we have actually established that thing now. We hope to launch in January, February. I will behave well and make sure I invite Makerere University, but we have done that. Now, what this integration bus is going to do is going to expose an integrated mobile application and citizens portal where you will be able to log in using your NIN. So you'll put in your credentials, say Rowena Turinawe, my national ID number is this, and then you can create a profile. So in that profile, you'll be able to consolidate whatever systems you're getting from government. You'll be able to have a dashboard if you owe government traffic fines, you owe national water, you will be able to see all the services attached to your NIN in that profile. Now for phase one, that might not be possible because we are still integrating the back-end services. But for now, we are actually working towards having that unified national ID number pegged to a user to get e-services. So we are actually working on that. We are also working on a mobile address, a mobile ID system where we can allow digital signing, digital authentication, and that is also in its final stages. So the first quarter of the next financial year has a lot of good news for us as government because we are going to resolve those issues in terms of identification, double entry of data, and e-services. Another question that sort of came out, apart from identity integration, of course, in terms of mandate, the question on coercing, no, we will not coerce anybody. In terms of mandate, yes, it is the mandate of NITAU to monitor, promote, coordinate, make sure that everybody doing an e-service is in line. That's why we're coming up with the interoperability framework. We are coming up with the digital services standards. We have all these laws and acts, and which is why this tool will come handy in us. So on your question on, is there a clear policy? No. The policy we are planning on developing starting February under the ministry is the interoperability policy. So what this policy will do is it will give us a strict, a firmer mandate on everybody that needs to integrate, because now it's standards, it's guidelines, it's frameworks. But starting February, we're going to work on an actual policy that speaks to interoperability across all MDAs. We already have a steering committee at a national level, hopefully who will help us with the political support, but we are sure that if we get this policy right and we have the right tool, we should be able to advance, because already we have 12 MDAs, we already have traction now, even without policy. Yeah, so I am positive that when the policy is in place, and even as we continue to show the value, if we continue to show value with this UG hub and the integration, I do believe that it will not be an uphill task for us as NITA. I hope I've answered your questions.
Yes, thank you, Rowena. Dear participants, there's going to be a slight shift or change in the program. My apologies on behalf of the team, but I shared the program with you earlier on, and on that program we had remarks from two very important speakers who have honored our invite, though they have a very busy schedule. And one of them is Professor Buyinza Mukadasi, Director of Research and Graduate Studies at Makerere University, and is also the Makerere Institutional Coordinator for the Carnegie-supported SECA project. He's present with us here online, and we are going to cut short the Q&A session, which we shall resume after these few remarks. So participants, please bear with us. Let these very important people say a few words, then we resume our Q&A session. So I'm going to hand over to Professor Buyinza Mukadasi. You're most welcome. Mic is in your hands.
This Charles, thank you very much, Charles, if I got you right. It is a pleasure joining you at this very important dissemination conference. Frankly, I'm really overjoyed to be here with you simply because you are really disseminating and sharing research outputs on a matter that is dear to my heart. At Makerere, more importantly, the Directorate of Research and Graduate Training, we really want to promote innovative ways of service delivery. And I find this model really of assessing the quality of electronic services and all e-government services being innovative and the first of its kind. I've had a few projects of this nature in the university, but I find this one really deep and rich, to the extent that even the non-subject experts like myself can really appraise and comprehend the issues. Of course, I know that we are all grappling with issues of uptake of e-services, and the failure rates have been reportedly high. over time. And of course, we are not making that expected contribution to efficiency in the government service delivery. So as academics and as scholars, if we can really have this model shared and possibly adopted by government, this will be the biggest contribution. Carnage supported postdoc fellowship we have made to this country. I know that there have been many efforts way of really implementing the National Development Plan 3 to have IT as an integral part of service delivery, but not much has been achieved. So I want to renew my commitment to support you as you continue to improve and work around e-government readiness to improve the penetration of ICT and also use ICT services. Incidentally, during this pandemic period, many of us have been forced really to adapt and cope with, but very few of us really understand and can work around the sustainability of these web-based, ICT-based, technology-based governance systems. This is a challenge, and for sure we need to overcome this, and the only way we can do that is to have the subject experts working with us, the administrators and later policy implementers, to have this entrenched and accepted as the way of life and the way of governance. We need the systems. I know you well know, being the implementers and the experts, you know very well that in this country, the ICT literacy is still high, colleagues of mine. It is not yet Uhuru. We need really to work around this. How do we help people, Ugandans, improve their literacy levels in ICT? It's a big challenge. People are quick to talk about a device, talk about bandwidth, talk about connectivity and all the other technology-based equipment that require a cost, a budget support. But then how about the human resource capacity? How many of us are really able to apprehend and even use the e-governance services? They are not many. I always refer to my own district, Kamuli. I wonder if the top district leadership, how many of them really would be able, if you are to say that, for example, all of their reporting has to be electronic based, all of the information sharing should be technology based, web based. I wonder how many would really sustain the momentum, would communicate effectively. Not many for sure, and many other districts in this country. Therefore, I want to really say a word of thank you to my sister, Dr. Aminah Zawedde, for initiating, for really setting the pace for us as a university to make a contribution, to be relevant to this country. I know I've seen my sister, Rowena. Rowena is here. I think this is the best. We need to develop those organic, strategic, cordial working relationship between the university and NITA-U and also the other agencies, such that we are seen really to work around the economic and the social and economic development of this country. Together, we can achieve a lot, I believe. Thank you very much, team, and thank you, Dr. Aminah Zawedde.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Buinza. And I think you really hit the hammer on the nail when you said ICT literacy in Uganda is impacting the e-services. But yes, thank you very much for your remarks. Thank you, thank you. Another speaker from the College of Computing and IT, specifically the School of Computing and Informatics Technology, Dr. Evelyn Kahigi, who is present with us, was also invited to make a few remarks. She's also a bit busy and has a busy day, so she has requested we provide her this opportunity and time to submit her remarks. So I'm going to kindly request that she talks to us. Dr. Kahigi, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Funa, and good morning, colleagues. My topic was relevancy, just a minute, of the project to the IT department. And I just want to start off by thanking, I apologize, I am in an area which doesn't support my video. So the internet is slow, but with us, we have the PS, IT, and we have NITA on board. So I need fast internet in my remote village in Luero. So I apologize for the video. First, I want to thank Carnegie Corporation for giving us the opportunity as the IT department to apply for a seed grant, and which was successful. So we want to thank you for that support through Professor Wienza, but also thank Dr. Aminah Zawedde, who is a fellow with the Carnegie under the SECA project. So I want to thank you, Aminah, for one, applying and being admitted, and clearly your research was relevant as evidenced in the presentations that we have had with Shafiq demonstrating the assessment tool. As an IT department, the project, we looked at skills enhancement and improving the research agenda at the Department of Information Technology. And this we decided to go this way because the strategic plan of Makerere 2020 and 2030 aims at providing transformative and innovative teaching, learning, research, and services responsive to dynamic national, regional, and global needs. So the strategic objective goal number 2 really stipulates research, innovation, and professional practices, which generate tested contextual ideas. And it also looks at enrichment of students' learning and creating an impact for sustainable development. So in line with this, Makerere University and most of the IT department needed to position itself, or needs to position itself as a research-led department. So at the department, we've seen an increase in graduate admissions both at master's and PhD level. And however, the challenge therein is that the completion rate is low. And this completion rate is attributed to several challenges, such as a student losing interest in the research process. There are claims that it takes so long, it's difficult to complete at Makerere, or more so at the school or the department. We have issues where supervisors are overloaded with students because most of our lecturers had been off for study leave to acquire their PhDs. So the staff at the department was limited, as opposed to the students that required their attention. The student supervisor conflict as well is one of the challenges that is cited at the department. And we've also got several new PhD students, new PhD holders who have come from diverse PhD backgrounds. So this creates conflict on how well we supervise the students, or how well we examine the students, because everybody has been trained from a different stream or process thought in terms of what they see research. Despite the fact that we have the graduate handbook, which at some point is not followed, the research is not in sync. So when we applied, so as a result, the department saw a need to enhance the research skills and also have create a sense of accountability and harmonization of the research supervision among the academic staff. So, the objective of the project, of the program, of the initiative, was to implement an enhanced research enhancement agenda, where we are strengthening the skills and knowledge required to support the research and graduate supervision, as well as also acquire or enhance the IT equipment at the department. So the project really aimed at building the research agenda and support graduate supervision capacity among the IT department staff, but also improve the IT equipment base at the department. So to date, we have held an initial meeting as a department to understand and own the research agenda that we had we wanted to front, and through that we created a subcommittee that was going to specifically look at how well we can implement this short project. And we have so far had 2 workshops. The first workshop was to understand where we are in terms of at the department, and where do we have cohesion and where do we have conflict. We involved graduate studies. That was Professor Robert Wamala, who came to highlight a number of issues that we needed to, or guidance that is required at graduate level, and what we need to do as a department so that we are in line with what is expected for us to do in terms of the graduate research process. It is then that we had a number of, through that, we broke up into teams to understand what is required and what guidelines, to really understand what is IT research and what is there, in what are those key issues that we need to follow to guide the students as we are supervising them. So in this, we reviewed and adopted the graduate research guidelines as provided in the graduate research handbook for the IT department. And specifically, we looked at the differentiation, how to differentiate the plans there are in. We have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And we had a consultative workshop where the IT department had, the members had an input on their understanding. And through that guidance, were able to come up with research guidelines and that clearly guide the supervisors on what to examine, on how well to examine an IT master's or research thesis or project report. We looked at, and this was in line with what is presented, is reconciled with what is presented in the graduate handbook. We've come up with guidelines, and through these guidelines, we are going to also present to the students so that as they're writing, right from the concept, proposal, and their final thesis or project report, they know exactly what is expected of them while they're carrying out their research. And it is through this that we've gotten consensus on what is expected of us as researchers in the IT department in terms of when we're looking at research in the IT field. So that is really from the research agenda. In terms of ICT infrastructure at the department, we're able to, because we asked and consulted on what are those things that needed to be done at the to support research at the department. So we've procured some equipment, network printer, we have a projector, 2 network printers, a projector, but also managed to get some money to label the offices because we found that students were getting lost and in terms of identifying who sits where. So with that, I want to thank through Aminah, through Professor Buyinza, and to really acknowledge Carnegie for enabling us to do these things as a department. And of course, research, we have seen that this has improved the research, not just at the department, but at also a school level. So I'm putting now my hat on as a dean, where we are continuously having research seminars supported by the college. And also the research that Shafiq has presented to you is really a great contribution to the research profile of the department, the school, and the university at large. So Shafiq, thank you very much. We will engage you further because you can't really stop here. We have to progress your research and see how best we can enrich the research agenda, but also benefit the nation at large. So thank you very much. And I appreciate the time you've given me to share the relevancy of the SECA project to the IT department. Funa, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Evelyn Kahigi. That is Acting Dean, SCIT, School of Computing and Informatics Technology, representing us at this dissemination session. Thank you for your remarks. In the interest of time, I'm going to kindly request participants to share their email addresses and their names so we can share the slides from the presenters today. Those who have any questions, we're going to end the Q&A session, but like I've been reiterating through the chat session, if you have any questions for the presentations or for any of the remarks made so far, please submit through the chat session and the team shall address them. I'm going to kindly request the team to share their email addresses in the chat session right now so that participants can either engage with them directly on a one-to-one basis. So please do the needful. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and call upon our host, the college principal, College of Computing and Information Sciences, Professor Tony Oyana, who is present with us, to kindly unmute and give us some remarks and comments regarding today's dissemination session and anything else. Thank you, Professor. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. I speak at this dissemination activity. I want to recognize, because protocol changes, I know our Deputy Vice Chancellor is around, but once Dr. Aminah Zawedde was our lecturer, she's now PS. So with PS, if Dr. Umar Kakumba can allow me break that protocol with his indulgence to recognize the PS Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Then I would recognize him, our Deputy Vice Chancellor. A&A, I thank you for joining us. I will recognize Professor Buyinza. I hope around. You are supposed to have another engagement. So I thank you for the support, first of all, towards the development of early faculty. It is very critical for us to invest in early faculty past their PhD. So I thank you for the support you have given to us. As you heard clearly, the outcomes included research capacity building at departmental level. Production of that really happens at departmental level. So I thank the acting dean. Dan. I also want you for joining us and all the participants. I think we are about 45 participants. So I thank you for the patience and joining the College of Computing and Information Sciences in this major dissemination activity. It increases our visibility. It also helps us tell our story. I want to focus on about 3 to 4 things. Number one, I have already thanked Carnegie through Professor Buyinza for the support for early faculty. And I would also re-echo the same message to the Deputy Vice Chancellor that we have relatively a very young faculty in the college, and we require more investment in early faculty, not just one, but we should be able to invest all in early faculty who are less than 5 years post their PhD. So I hope that we can cultivate that investment so that we yield higher research productivity. I want to actually thank Mr. Lutaaya, Sharif. I actually happen to be a participant, and it is a pleasure meeting you, and I thank you for the work that you have done. However, I have some beef with you because you set up your email every like 7 hours. You are reminding us to fill in the survey that you are conducting, which is a good thing. But at some point I yielded. I said I have to stop Mr. Sharif Lutaaya from sending this, I think, automated emails by responding to the survey so that they stop coming. You're quite aggressive in research. I would request that you can always reduce the number of communication to the user, because when it becomes such a constant reminder, sometimes like I've given you my feedback, okay? So please spread it out, okay? I responded not because I wanted consent, but because of the pressure of the email. It was reminding me all the time. So spread it out. The presentation, I want to look at the presentation made by our sister Rowena from NITA-U. There was impressive data that empirical data that I would like to refer to, because I thought that the design and cost responses were at 77%. And that's where there is a gap in how we are using these e-services. Things that came out related to e-services, and especially what she has termed at Umuntu wa Wansi, okay? Because if you look at Umuntu wa Wansi, mentioned, their digital literacy rates are very low. So we should always emphasize training and follow up. You have even seen here in Makerere, we are quite the challenge we had with the adopting new systems, and how Odell was training and retraining and training all needs, and also follow up, because you monitor whether they are really able to use. If you have a threshold of about 80%, then I think it is effective. Also considering the other thing that comes up from that empirical data is co-design. Is it okay to do participatory co-design with the Mutua ones so that they can give you feedback as you are presenting these services to them? Because we didn't know a couple of years ago how the national ID would be very important. Now you cannot get services without having that national ID. It is required everywhere, whether you're going for a land title, you're going for normal bank services. This is now a requirement. So we are limiting services to our people who are not very well educated if we don't really train and increase awareness among them. The usefulness of this e-service, first of all, it helps us monitor performance targets at all levels, okay? If you know you are performing, then the feedback to your performance targets being met are given to you instantly. So it is a good tool, a monitoring tool that we should encourage to use. And since I understand in some agencies, they already performance contracts, this can help show the productivity of workers employed in government. But it can also augment, especially in the usability area, okay? And we have seen that usability that was conducted through UNICEF, the support of UNICEF, gives us a unique feedback on what is happening on the ground. The other matter that I would like to emphasize, and this comes from one of the best scholars in computer science, Professor Schneider from University of Maryland. He always talked about in his book and also in his teaching and in his writing, beyond user friendliness. Okay, we should be able to go beyond having a good interface and making sure that the interaction between those users and also those interfaces is beneficial, that they are taking the information that is important in changing their lives or improving service delivery. So that is really, really, really important. And finally, I don't want to take most of your time, is to congratulate the entire team and for the opportunity to invite me to witness and listen to this insightful research. I thank you, Dr. Aminah Zawedde, for educating us. When I joined, I was less educated, but now I'm going back to reflect on these new insights, especially the empirical data that was presented by Rowena. Thank you so much. I hope you can share it so that we can continue to use it in a meaningful way. I thank Charles Funa. I am done on my part. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Tony Oyana, for those kind remarks and words, and for supporting the team and for honoring the invite. You have already recognized the DVC A&A, Professor Uma Kakumba, who's present with us today. I'll also kindly say thank you for honoring the invite and being with us today. I'm going to kindly hand the mic over to you so you can provide the closing remarks for this dissemination seminar. Participants, please note we are on time. We are scheduled to end at 12:15, so we have done a very good job. Thank you, team. But Professor, you're most welcome. Please give us the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Many thanks to you, Mr. Moderator, and a very good afternoon to you, colleagues. It's a great pleasure, Mr. Principal, and the rest of your team at the College of Computing and Information Science. My colleague, Professor Buyinza, the Director of Research and Graduate Training. Yeah, I want to recognize the Dean, the substantive Professor Gilbert Maiga, and the acting the Dean Kahiji and the rest of the colleagues who are joining us to once again engage as the academia and also have the opportunity to learn and unlearn a few things that we have here and there. It's a great opportunity for me. I apologize for joining you late. I had committed to this, but I have an ongoing meeting of the Board of Research and Graduate Training here that I left, but also will rejoin shortly after this. So that's solely the reason why I joined late, and I have missed the presentation of Dr. Zawedde. But permit me at this juncture to first and foremost congratulate Dr. Zawedde for this milestone in many things. One, giving a good example. It's important to give a good example. You know, when you are being mentored as a research leader, the way this program, the SECA is, it impacts, it shows a good example to those that you are, like the graduate students that she's taking on, and also others that we are training, that once you commit yourself to a project, you have to account for it in terms of results and in terms of the project outputs that you committed. And this is a very good thing. I think this is the first dissemination that is concluding under SECA. I happen to chair the project implementation committee of the support for early career academics, SECA, which is funded by the Kennedy Corporation of New York. Yeah, so I am aware that this year we gave, it's a 2-year run, but we gave 17. It was supposed to be 15, but we improvised and made it 17, especially to the number that was tying at the score after the vetting. Yeah, so Dr. Zawedde has made that great impression. And of course, I know the rest of the projects, the fellows in this SECA have been able to make considerable strides in their projects, but I want to thank you for being a leader in this. Secondly, I also want to congratulate you and your team for such a wonderful model and tool that I have had the Dean and the head of department speak to attest to the fact that, this model and tool has a profound potential to contribute to the digital governance of Uganda. And I want to thank you upon that. But also thirdly, which could have come at the very, very beginning, is congratulating you upon your elevation from an ordinary academic like many of us to becoming the permanent secretary of the Ministry of ICT. But also congratulating you in remembering Makerere University as your alma mater, but also as your home. Because beyond the duties, the call of duties that we from time to time we are asked to engage in, we have homes. So when you return to your home, where you have colleagues that you have lived with and you've enjoyed and learned a lot, it is always important to remember home. So I thank you for that, and also choosing to invite us to, share with us these milestones. Yeah, colleagues, other than that, the rationale for SECA, I'm sure my colleague Professor Windsor should have attested to it or probably alluded to a few things. Under this support for early career academics, we strive to promote the strategic vision and mission of Makerere University. You know, our current mantra is making Makerere University a research-led, a research-intensive university. There are about 4 strategic goals, but that one is one of the strategic goals that is at the forefront, because research leadership is very, very, very important for a 21st century university. Because through research, then you can even inform curriculum. Because research-led means that the teaching and learning embeds or highly derives from the research that you conduct. In other words, research should inform the curriculum. It should inform the new knowledge that you are going to impart into your products that you want to churn out to the public out there. So ideally, we should not just develop curricula that is just based on imperatives and opinions and impressions of individuals. We should develop curricula that is tagged on the emerging issues and the problems and the needs of society that we have researched about, and the knowledge bases and the skills that we need to pick out from the problems of the world and the community. We impart them to our students, who now should be able, okay, to be compliant with the unfolding needs of our the global community. So research-led in a way requires that, but you cannot go research-led if you don't have the next generation of academics and research leaders. So under this SECA, we are trying to groom a new generation of research leaders and academics for sustainability of the institution, but also for being able to inform new solutions. And I know the College of Computing is at the forefront of providing digital solutions to this country, but also providing those, integrating all of the different disciplines and the demands together. So under SECA, we are privileged to, and I want to thank my colleague, Professor Winza, who has been the program, overall program coordinator and manager for the Kennedy, for the second year run. We started with the NELP. Then we have been running this SECA for 2 years. And then there is, we are trying to compete for a successor project. Yesterday we had a meeting, and I'm saying this because I would now call upon the faculty in courses and elsewhere to look up for these opportunities and compete. And these grants go up to around 30 to 35,000 US dollars, okay, for a fellow. But it's not just for the fellow alone, but also to mentor, to provide a mentorship for support the graduate student. And I'm glad that the graduate student has progressed in well in the case of Dr. Zawedde. But also the fact that you also have a senior mentor whom you are aligning with. So if this can continue in the next successor program, and we have many faculty that compete and get this kind of grant for postdoc fellowship, I'm sure it will go a long way in supporting the next generation of academics and research leaders, and which makes the university relevant to the current, and which also makes us to be competitive in the global rankings. Yeah, so colleagues, I don't intend to take a lot of time. Mine is basically to give, to laud this initiative, but also to give momentum to you, the faculty, to continuously look up for these opportunities, and also be able to think out for those innovative models and interventions that can guide the university, like in this case, the governance, the institution, how you are doing a model for quality assessment of e-services in resource-constrained environments, because that's a direct area that creates intervention to a problem or an issue at hand. Yeah, colleagues, and in a nutshell, I want to thank the college management. Professor Yana, I want to thank you so much. Your team, the dean, the heads of department, and the rest of the colleagues in creating this culture. We need a culture. When I see many participants, over 40 participating in this, I mean over 50 participating in this, and then I think that is important. The culture out there where we have had studies, you and I, you know that every day there are those lunchtime seminars, disseminations, even a research idea that people are trying to progress with before they even go to the field and do any data collection or even write any recommendations or whatever. Just a research idea, they brainstorm it through a lunchtime seminar series. We've seen them happening out there. So this should be the kind of culture and that we should be able to cultivate in our endeavor as a university, as academics, and be able to share knowledge, this transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary engagement, where courses works with education, works with the SEDAT, works with health. I think you are a unifying factor. Everybody needs ICT because it is a critical integrating factor in all fields of education and all solutions that we need in this world. So mine is to thank you, your leadership, Professor Yana and the rest of the leadership at the courses for enabling this environment and engagement, and for also giving opportunity to staff to compete for these programs. I want to urge you the next call. We are writing a grant. Probably we should receive a little more than $1 million US, God willing. We have started on this with Professor Huyinza. Yesterday we had a meeting. So probably in a few months down, we shall be having a call for postdocs where you can have, academics writing proposals and then be able to, especially the ladies, because Kennedy, our memorandum of understandings with Kennedy is that at least 50% of whatever we give should be to ladies. So if the ladies are doing us good in terms of completion on time, then that will give us more confidence with our partners. I don't intend to go more than this, than I have at the much time I have taken. My point was really to laud this initiative, the effort, the engagement, the innovative solution that has come in through this, the graduate student who is benefiting into this, and all the pieces of knowledge that we are picking from here and there. I want to thank you so much, colleagues, and thank you so much once again. Please let's have many of these for many more times to come as we build for the future. Thank you so much once again, and may the good Lord bless you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Makakuva. Very valuable remarks, very insightful, very supportful, especially to Dr. Zawedde and her team, and to us here at courses. The dissemination seminar is officially closed. I'm going to leave it open for another 5 to 10 minutes so that participants can submit any questions or their contacts so that we can further engage them on a one-to-one basis. So it will stay open for 10 minutes. So any questions, please submit through the chat session, contact details, etc., so we can further engage with you. Participants, thank you for honoring the invite and sticking to the 2 hours from beginning to end. Thank you and have a good day.
Maybe just the ritual, Mr. Charles Funa. I forgot the ritual that it is now my singular honor and privilege to close this dissemination seminar.
You're most welcome. Please go ahead. Yes, thank you very much. Have a good day, Professor.
Thank you all colleagues for joining us this morning and for the contributions and questions you have given us. It will be lessons that we are going to take to improve this research. I also thank the support team, Dora, Charles, Peter Mukuru, I think has left. Thank you for making this event a success. I wish you all the best and look forward to further collaboration with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And have a good day.
Thank you. Good day, everyone.